Okay, what I'm going to do here is show you how to create a set of screens that are interlinked inside BYOB Scratch. So here we have a blank stage and here we have a sprite upon it. I'm going to go in and create a few costumes or a few different backgrounds for the stage. So let's have a go at editing this one. I'm looking for a very simple sort of room type effect here. That's not the right sort of rectangle. Let's undo that. I'm wanting an open rectangle for the back wall of the room. It's looking reasonably good. And let's put in a roof and then side walls and a floor. So far, so reasonably good. I'm going to pop a couple of doors in here so that we've got something to aim for. This is testing my skills of single point perspective. There we go. Oh, it could have been a little more accurate. Probably about there. And then dropping the vertical down again. Okay, that's looking reasonably good, isn't it? Apart from those two fudges, let's see what we can do about just tidying those up ever so slightly using the eraser. Okay, pinpoint accuracy, not my strong point when working with a mouse. Much easier, of course, on a pen-based interface here. Right, so let's start with one room, and I'm going to start with the blue room. I'm thinking of sort of a suite of rooms, much as you might get at Versailles or Sandringham. So we'll put some nice blue paint on those walls, and then we're going to have a red door over this side, and I suppose we could have a yellow door over this side. And let's put in a floor, nice mucky brown colour, oh dear. And again over here, I guess. There we go. And some ceiling, where we could leave the ceiling white or possibly a pale cream magnolia, of course, being very popular as a ceiling colour. So we've got one room designed here, a blue room leading off to a red room to that side. So I'll click OK, and there we go, nice sort of background there. We're going to make a copy of that to background 2. Let's give this a meaningful name. We're going to call this the blue room. And now let's go in and edit room 2, which is the next room in the suite. So we're going to take our eyedropper here, and we're going to paint those walls in red. We're going to then take that blue colour of the room that we came from and fill in the door that we came out of as blue, and let's have the next room in the suite, which can be a green room. There. Well, that doesn't look particularly good as a green. Let's try this green. I'm not convinced by these greens. Let's leave it as that. Okay, we can faff around with this to our heart's content later. So we have a blue room, which leads to a red room, which leads to a green room. So we're going to call this red, and now make a copy of that and call this one green. And edit. Oops, am I editing the right room? Let me just cancel that. Yes, I am. Okay, so again, let's take that green colour and pour that onto these walls. We came out of a red room, so we're going to pop that in there, and the next room in the suite is going to be our yellow room. There we go. Done, dusted. Blue goes to red, goes to green, and then let's do another copy and edit. And again, we're going to take this yellow, fill that in on these walls. We've just come from a green room, so let's pop that in there. And then you remember right at the start we had our blue room had a yellow door on one side, so that should lead back into the blue room, and we then have 4 rooms all around a circle. Not quite sure how the geography of this building would work, but you've got the idea, I hope. Okay, and let's give this a witty and amusing name like yellow, the yellow drawing room. So blue leads to red, leads to green, leads to yellow, which leads back to blue. There are our 4 rooms created. Okay, let's start playing with the sprite now. I'm going to shrink the sprite down so that our sprite there will be able to fit through the doors. Let's move him into position somewhere. And now we need to start giving the sprite some command control instructions. Let's have a look at his script, shall we? So when I get the green flag signal, do the following. Okay, what we're going to do here is have a sort of forever loop in place. And let's first do some control for the sprite. That's going to be a sensing thing. If I touch one key, do that. If I touch another key, do that. Let's just set that up now. If the left arrow is pressed, then move left a bit. So that's actually going to be a change in the x coordinate. So change the x coordinate by -10. And a similar sort of thing on the other side. If I press the right arrow, then change the x coordinate by 10. Shall we just check that that's working? Okay, so we can move the sprite around. Fine. What we're not, of course, getting yet is things happening to the room. Okay, that's all looking hunky-dory. Okay, let's deal with the room. So inside that forever loop, what I want to do is to test whether we're hitting either of these doors. So I'm going to again do that as an if-then statement. If this, then that. If that, then something else. What are we going to test there? We're going to test the position of the sprite. So if I'm going to see whether it's, if I'm at a very small number, if x is very low, then we'll have gone into the green room. If x is very big, then we'll have gone into the blue room. So let's deal with that now. If something is less than something, if something is bigger than something. So what have we got to do now? Okay. The position, if the x position is too small, do that. If the x position is too big, do something else. Let's get those numbers. So here, looking at my x display here, is looking around about the -190 mark is where things get interesting, and hopefully on the other side about the same, positive. So if x is less than -190, we've moved to the left room. If x is bigger than 190, then we've moved to the right room. And all I'm going to do in this script is issue a couple of broadcast instructions. So what I'm going to do here is, if it's too small, then send a signal, and that's going to be a new signal which says I've moved into the left-hand room. Broadcast is one way of getting one script to control another script, or to at least start another script. If it's too big, then we broadcast another signal to say that we've moved into the right-hand room. Okay, shall we just test that now? Nothing happens because nothing knows to react to those broadcast instructions. But it's not actually crashed yet, it still seems to be working. Let's go back to the stage. You'll notice that as well as having a background, the stage can also have a script, and that's what I want to play with now. So when the stage receives the instruction left, I want the stage to switch into the previous costume. So I'm going to play around with the looks here. I want it to switch to a background. The background I want it to switch to is 1 less than the current background number. So I want it to switch to the background number -1. And then I want it to wait a little while. There's a good reason for that, in that the sprite is still going to be in the wrong position. And then I can say that script can stop. So stop that script. When I receive a left signal, switch to the previous background, wait a second, and then stop. Exactly the same thing going on for the other signal. When I receive a right instruction, change the appearance by switching to the next background. So again, that's an operator. The background number, this time +1, and we wait a second, and then we stop the script. Shall we have a go? Let's see whether it's working or not. Oh! Blue. Well, something's certainly happening. Of course, the signal's too high there. It's definitely switching backgrounds, but unfortunately it's not sort of moving into the next room. But we've definitely got something going on when we're getting into the doorway. Okay, so that's looking pretty good, but we've not quite finessed everything. What we should have is when we move into the blue room, we emerge not in the same place, but on the other side of the blue room. So that's another couple of scripts that we need to add to the sprite here. Because when the sprite hears that it's moved to the left-hand room, it needs to do something. So when the sprite receives left, i.e. we've moved over to this room, then we want to emerge from the other door in the other room. So we're going to change the x coordinate to the other side of the room. So let's say 180 or so. And then I believe we should be able to stop that script. Duplicate that and make a couple of changes when I receive the right instruction, set to the left hand side of the other room and stop. Fingers crossed, folks. Hang out the green door, blue door. Well, some things are working. We've got things moving just a little bit too quickly. So let's put some delays in here. So we're going to do a similar sort of thing here. So broadcast left and then wait. Broadcast right and then wait before carrying on with the script. Let's try that. Out through the blue door, into a blue room. Out through the red door, into a red room. Out through the green door, into a green room. Let's try it in the other direction. Yes, that's looking better, isn't it? Okay, and then coming out into the other room. So we do have a very strong illusion of moving through these suites of rooms now, and then having to wait when we get into the new room. And that's very, very simple. Those conditions of moving into the next room are set simply when you get to the door. You could make this more complicated by having keys or objects which you need to have collected. And so this instruction before you broadcast left could have something about whether the room's unlocked or not. I think that's probably enough for you to be getting started. You'll obviously want to work with your own background and your own characters rather than the ones which I've done very simplistically here, but I'm going to stop the recording now.